podcast.
Do you want to explain yourself?
It's not my meme, dude. I was just holding
Last
I was
night.
just holding it for a friend.
Last night, I'm sitting on my couch. I'm reading comic
Mm-hmm.
books. I'm watching TV. I'm having a nice little time. It's a nice little Friday evening, and I get an Instagram notification. Boop. Get a little boop, boop, boop. Open my phone. Oh, Chris sent me a meme. That's usually fine.
Usually.
Do you think Elastigirl can extend her clit till it's the size of a dick and peg Mr. Incredible?
What are you doing, step bro?
What you say?
We're here. Any reason you wanted to send me that?
Feel it in my holes, I am rectangular.
Look, I thought it was an interesting question. I wanted to get your thoughts on it. You're a learned man of science.
It is an interesting
and
question.
philosophy.
It is, and I think that she could, and that she does.
Look,
and that they have weird, crazy sex.
look. I pray my dick get big as the Eiffel Tower, so I can fuck the world for 72 hours.
This is what people come to the Hill Kings podcast
I am
for.
rectangular.
Let's get into it. This is the Hill Kings podcast, episode 7,
We
Westie Side Story.
Westie Side Story, dude. This one's buckle up.
Let's get into it. Hand on your heart, fucker. Hat off.
I feel like I'm in a church that I'm not a believer in, and they're playing the worship.
That of
music.
course is the national anthem of Laos.
Oh heck yeah! I was wondering what you were playing for us.
Yeah, I kind of thought that just to kind of mitigate the problematic nature of this episode, I'd kind of pepper in a Laos fact
Yes.
every now and again.
Wow, fact.
Did you know that Laos is the only landlocked country in the whole of Southeast Asia?
I'm aware of that.
That's a Laos fact for you.
Ooh, Laos fact. I'm gonna go ahead and do my white ally thing and say I have a friend who's Laotian. So
Oh, you can't.
shout out to Amanda. If you're watching this, Amanda, shout out to my Laotian friend.
Yeah.
Rachel's
You
Laotian
think
friend.
she's watching?
She could be.
Is she from Laos proper?
No, dude, she's from Oklahoma.
So
Her parents
she's
are Laotian though.
first generation, second generation. What are we
Yes,
talking
she's
here?
first generation.
Okay. Did you know that coffee is the biggest agricultural export in Laos?
I believe it. More Lao facts, baby.
No, we'll be peppering them in throughout the episode. Welcome back for another week. We're here. It's 10 a.m. We've got that morning energy going.
It's 12
man.
p.m. here in Central Standard
We've
Time.
got that morning energy going.
It's high noon
though.
over here.
And it's nice, and we're here.
Yes.
And we're here to talk about the episode. But before we do that bullshit, you know what we always got to do.
Best week in Harlan.
What are you doing, step bro?
Ooh, he's going to use that one a lot. You were just talking about how much pornography you had to watch to find that soundboard bite. You really committed to the research.
Oh, no, it was easy. It came up in my day-to-day.
On your work computer.
I added some sound bites. Anyway, this is This Week in Arlen, March 2nd, 1997. Of course, this is the segment of the Hill Kings podcast. You all know, you're all diehard fans at this point, where we talk about what was going on in the world the week that this episode of King of the Hill aired. This episode aired early March 1997. Let's get right the fuck into it with a look at the TV
It's my
guide.
favorite part.
Yeah, it's a good part. It's kind of the same thing every time.
It is.
Because it's kind of successive weeks. But we did have The Fugitive on NBC starting at the same time as King of the Hill. So, nice little Sunday night movie
yeah, dude.
on NBC. My Sister, My Sitter, Simpsons check. Decent episode. Not my favorite. I've mentioned that this is when The Simpsons starts to go downhill. We've got The Parenthood. We've got Steve Harvey, Objective Fact. America's Castles. Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman. Anything stand out here to you?
I would I mean, it's on a little bit late, but I love anything. I loved an architectural show as a kid. So America's Castles.
So you're saying America's Castles?
Travel Channel?
Yeah.
You definitely could have caught young me watching Travel Channel and be like, dang, those are some nice beaches.
You could have caught young me pausing the TV on the Scrambled Porn channel.
Where do you think you got that soundbite from? I'm not familiar with the Sunday night movie on ABC, The Apocalypse Watch.
ABC. I don't know. Let's Google it.
I mean, I know about The Fugitive. The Fugitive is great.
Apocalypse Watch, 1997 drama starring Benedict Blythe.
Yeah, I know you're about to say.
It's not Benedict, it's Benedict.
Oh, no T.
And he has Benedict.
Hey, Benedict.
It's got a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. A CIA analyst takes over a case from his brother, a field agent.
Seems like conflict of
in the
interest.
line of duty. It's a thriller based on a Robert Ludlum novel.
Shout out to Robert Ludlum.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should be shouting him out or not.
Yeah, he might be,
Who knows? If you're Robert Ludlum, sound off in the comments.
Sound off in the comments if you're Robert Ludlum. We'd love to hear from you.
Or if you're just a regular Robert. Take any Roberts.
Anyone named Robert is welcome here.
Yeah, dude.
We welcome all Roberts. As many Robert fans as we could get on the show.
Space for Bobby.
Yeah.
All right, what else is going on this week, man?
Donnie Brasco came out. Johnny Depp Al Pacino movie. Ever heard of it?
I haven't seen it, but damn, dude, look at those sideburns.
Yeah, pretty sick.
I tried to do sideburns once, man. It did not work out.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't. Shouldn't.
That's the lesson I learned.
Yeah. Suge Knight caught a 9-year fucking sentence. It was probation violation for this one.
Shit.
He did go to prison later for, I think, like murder, attempted murder. But yeah, this week Suge Knight picked up almost a tenner.
Ooh.
It was Bon Jovi's birthday. John Bovey's birthday.
Happy birthday.
I have this tattoo. I don't know if you know that.
I did.
It's Is My Life,
know that.
John Bovey. I have this tattoo on my body.
Funny.
Turok Dinosaur Hunter came out
shit.
a few days earlier. This was a banger of a game. I never had an N64 as a kid. I have one back there now because adult money. I can do whatever I want. But I remember playing this game at the McDonald's.
Oh, the McDonald's kiosk.
N64 arcade.
Yes,
Remember those?
dude. The best part about going to McDonald's.
Because Smash Bros was always taken. So sometimes you got to go to Turok Dinosaur Hunter, and it was still a banger.
Yeah.
It was still
We
good.
did not have a 64 in-house either. Had lots of friends with 64s. PS1 was our first console that we had at the house.
We had a PS1. We were a Nintendo family primarily, which is weird that we didn't have an N64. We went regular NES to Super Nintendo to PS1 and then to GameCube.
Oh, GameCube.
GameCube is an
Start
underrated.
a whole other podcast about the GameCube. I love the GameCube.
The GameCube podcast.
We can't get caught up in
Let's
this
talk
week
about
in Ireland.
Pikmin, bitch.
Yeah, let's talk about.
Anyway, we'll talk about Pikmin later. American primitivist painter Wendell Thompson Perkins died at 69 years old.
69.
It was a slow week. Not a lot was
I like
going
this
on.
painting. This is cool.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah, I
sick.
like
I
it.
like his work, actually. And finally, the Grange Gorman killings happened a couple days later. The most famous and brutal murders in Ireland
Oh, really?
at the time. Interesting thing about this case, this could turn into a true crime podcast if you wanted. Also,
True Crime 64 podcast.
True Crime N64 and King of the Hill. We've got it all. So it was like a brutal homicide of these two women, and this guy who like wasn't fully all there in the
Talking about
dome.
Grange Gorman?
It was the Grange Gorman is the place where it is.
We're probably mispronouncing
But
it.
this
It's
dude
Gorman.
confessed to all of it, and then like was convicted, I believe. And then this other dude confessed.
Oh, shit.
And then they found out that the first guy was just confessing because he like didn't know any better,
Oh, no.
and he just kind of accidentally confessed to a couple brutal
Oh my
ass
gosh.
murders. But then the other guy got convicted. You can read all about it or listen to our other eventual true crime podcast. It's all here.
Yeah.
It's all good. The Grange Gorman
Wow.
killing.
It was a slow week in Ireland.
It was a bit of a slow week in Ireland, man. But that'll do it. Do you want to get into this episode?
Hell yes, dude. I'm driving the
Should we hit him
mower
with
this
another LAOS
week.
fact?
You got more
first?
Lao facts?
Oh, I got a ton.
Oh, heck yeah, dude.
Let's see. There are thousands of islands connected to Laos. It is landlocked, but Laos is comprised of thousands of islands, apparently. 4,000 to be
Oh,
exact.
wow.
These spectacular islands abound with powdery shores and turquoise waves, meaning that a tropical beach holiday in Laos is an excellent choice for beach bums.
Interesting.
So if you're a beach bum,
So, like,
I know we got some beach bums in the
so like
audience.
the mainland of Laos
Sound off.
is landlocked, but they possess
I don't
some
know,
islands
man.
too, man.
I
Dude, you came with the facts.
You know, I'm just reading an article.
Laotian?
Yeah, get her on the horn.
I don't want to bother her.
But yeah, let's talk about this
Yeah, man.
ball sack of an
It's
episode,
It's a
dude.
big one. Episode 7, like you said, aired on March the 2nd of
2.
1997. The description quip is just Hank and the rest of the gang on Rainy Street get a culture shock when their new Laotian neighbors move in next door. Before we get into this one, folks, on a semi-serious note, triggers for this one, it's got a bunch of 90s
Yeah.
race-based humor to it.
It's mostly all problematic and mostly all not good, and it is important, I think, to point out that the voice of Khan, Toby Huss, is a white man doing a very stereotypical accent.
Yes.
I think that is very common knowledge. He is also the voice of Cotton Hill. It was a different time. This was pretty normal at the time. For any Gen Z listeners, if your name is Robert and you're Gen Z and you're listening to the show, the 90s were a little different,
A little
Rob.
different.
They were a little bit different.
Yeah, so that being said, there's going to be a lot of race-based humor to this episode, but I think the writing in this one actually does a really... This is where we meet the Souphanousinphones for the first time, folks, and they will become a pretty pivotal part of Rainy Street. We'll get into it, but there's a lot of parts of this episode where the Souphanousinphones give it back to the folks on Rainy Street as well. And of course, I'm not trying to say like, oh, people being racist against white people or like making white people racism stereotypes.
Whoa,
is the
yeah,
same.
Chris is
They're not the same.
Chris believes he's an all lives
No,
matter guy.
Certainly not. Certainly not. But it is going to set up kind of in the beginning the Souphanousinphones, and Khan in particular definitely holds what he considers to be rednecks in a fairly low regard. So there's going to be a little bit of dichotomy back here. But yeah, this is episode 7 of the series. It was directed by Michael Shesley. and Wesley Archer. Those guys later on would go to be involved pretty heavily in, at least Brian was pretty heavily involved in Futurama, as well as a couple other Cartoon Network shows like Camp Lazlo and Chowder. A few folks out there who were Camp Lazlo and Chowder heads. Brian Sheasley's involved in that. I think he also had something to do with Uncle Grandpa. Did you ever catch Uncle Grandpa?
Yeah, I watched
Yeah,
that. Did
those
you
are
know,
fun.
speaking of Futurama, the voice of Min and Connie, Lauren Tom, played Amy Wong on Futurama also. So I wonder if that was kind of how she got the in.
Yeah, a lot of connection there. Also, some connection there with the other director, Wesley Archer. He later on gets involved in Rick and Morty, and I also believe he was involved in
Oh, yeah, that name is
he was
familiar.
involved in The Simpsons as well.
Speaking of getting canceled, Rick and Morty, huh?
Who?
Justin Roiland. Can we talk about
Huh?
it?
Who?
You don't know? You've never heard of Rick and Morty? You kind of just mentioned
Who?
it. Anyway.
Yeah. Hilarious. Written, of course, by Mike Judge and Greg Daniels. Also written by Jonathan
Who?
Adele.
Adele wrote
Yes,
this?
dude, she did. She's very talented.
Hello.
J.A. Jonathan Idell, however you pronounce it. Let me know. Correct me in the comments. He also was the writer for Kung Fu Panda. So
Bangers.
a lot more cartoon connection. But yeah, dude, let's get into it. Let's get this episode started. This one starts, I think, in an interesting way. We see the neighbors in Hank's driveway, drinking a beer like they always are, except this time they are all sitting on their riding mowers in Hank's driveway.
Which is a
in
vibe.
this opening.
It's
Yeah.
really a vibe.
It's just like, it kind of reminds me of when you used to like hang out on your bike all the time with kids in the neighborhood, except these grown men are sitting on their mowers.
Getting wasted, sitting on their riding
Yes.
lawnmowers.
Oh, should we go ahead and talk about West Side Story before we get into this?
Yeah.
Okay.
This might be outing myself a little bit. I've never seen it.
I haven't seen West Side Story either. So the title of this episode is Westie Side Story, which is a throw to the musical West Side Story, which is a very famous musical that neither of us have seen. Although
so we can really speak on it with authority.
Yeah, I know some of the tropes from West Side Story, though, which is kind of how pervasive it is. But West Side Story, written by Leonard Bernstein and Jeremy Robbins, and of course lyrics by Sondheim. It was originally a book, and West Side Story is essentially a Romeo and Juliet take. It's the structure of Romeo and Juliet set in the 50s in Brooklyn. Centers around. Is it Brooklyn? It might be New
You
York.
think?
Fuck, dude.
I don't know,
Yeah.
man. Like I said,
It's
never
this
seen
is
it.
the Jets versus the Sharks. West Side Story. This is where the dudes
Oh.
snapping menacingly as a group. This is where that trope comes from.
So where does the connection to this story in this episode of King of the Hill
So
come in?
it's
is our Lady Bird and Doggy the Romeo and Juliet
yes,
in this story?
we'll get to it eventually. It's more Romeo and Juliet stanced than it is necessarily West Side Story. Although West Side Story is kind of
Or
Romeo and
like
Juliet stanced.
Hank is the Jets and Con is the Sharks.
Yes.
or-
So the whole central hook is the two families have beef, but two younger members of the family have fallen in love, and so the story is kind of about a little bit of the love story, but more about the conflict that's going on there.
And you'd think it would be Connie and Bobby
Mhm.
because they do eventually start dating, but no, it's the dogs.
Yeah, I'd say we
It's
know later
Lady
on
Bird.
Connie and Bobby are going to kind of become the thing. So if you go into this episode thinking that this loves, West Side Story Romeo and Juliet play is going to be Bobby and Connie, it's the dogs this episode. Spoiler.
Yeah, they don't really do much for Connie in this episode
No,
at all.
uh-uh.
And Bobby's just kind of
Mhm.
there.
The kids are definitely going to take a backseat. This is very much a episode about the parents, Hank and Con in particular, but Min and Peggy are going to have some beef. So now that we've talked about West Side Story, we'll back it up. So the boys are on their mower, drinking beers. Moving truck rolls up. The guys are all excited. They see some square-jawed white men.
Some hot guys.
Yeah, dude, some hunks.
Some hot football
getting
guys.
Out.
And somebody's grabbing my butt.
The boys are saying stuff like, if he, throws a football as well as he handles that box, Arlen High might have herself a new tight end. Just like looking at
and
this
he
kid.
did have a tight end.
So Bill, I think it's funny. Bill is like, you think the dad's a good bowler? I bet he's a good bowler. Do you think he wants someone to bowl with? So the boys go over to introduce themselves. They say, what brings you to Arlen? And these two square-jawed, handsome, firm buttocked white men say that they were hired by this family to help move them. We get a cut to a family stepping out of a minivan with a small white dog, and it is the Souphanousinphones. So you kind of get this shock that, it's Asian neighbors, and then they cut us to the theme song.
Yeah.
So it cold opens.
And Hank's shocked face, I'll throw it up on the screen here, is super weird. The animation in this episode, normally I'll watch once and then I'll watch again and take notes. I rewatched it again last night because peek behind the curtain, Chris bailed on our last record. So I had a little bit of a weed last night.
Mm-hmm. What, like a dandelion?
And I just went out into the backyard, plucked a couple, and then sat down, rewatched, and didn't take any notes and just paid attention to the visuals. The animation in this episode is kind of fucked.
Yeah.
There's like a lot of continuity errors and just like weird movement. Like even when the Souphanousinphones are getting out of their van and the Foley sounds really weird. It's like loud and all the like footsteps sound. I don't know if I was just really high when I was watching it last night. It just sounded and looked kind of bad.
I actually did notice a little bit of that too, that it was a little touchy. It's still episode 7 of the first season, so still figuring it out.
Yeah. Still all very hand-drawn, probably didn't have as big of a budget. There was definitely like some audio mixing stuff that I noticed too. Like there's one scene where Hank is talking and then it cuts to Con and Hank is still talking and the level of the audio mix just like sounds completely different for a second.
It was the 90s.
Which is very nitpicky.
It was a different time, Brad.
But yeah.
Come on.
We had white dudes playing stereotypical Laotian men.
Come on, be an editing apologist. Come on, dude. It was the 90s.
Well, we all know I'm a king of editing.
King of editing, he is. So we get the shot of the Souphanousinphones stepping out of their van, and then we get the theme song. I thought there was a funny note there. Right before they do Dale's shocked face as well, a cigarette falls out of his mouth, and he, catches it. They do the thing where he catches it right up. I thought that was a nice little...
Yeah, that was good.
Nice little thing.
I saw that too.
So yeah, we get the theme song, and then right after the theme song, we're immediately going to get the kind of offensive joke that is going to be the kind of linchpin of all the white folks in this episode. The main joke is going to be them not knowing the Souphanousinphones' ethnicity. The main joke is going to be, well, are you Chinese or Japanese? That's going to flow.
Yeah, and Dale says that he can't be Japanese because Japanese guys are usually wearing
suit and
business
tie
suits
glasses.
and ties.
Yes, very offensive line from Dale right off of the bat. But the Chinese or Japanese thing is going to be the big crux of it. So Hank says, a neighbor's a neighbor. So he's gonna go over and meet him, and a lot of what we'll see from Hank this episode is kind of centered around him not caring about race and more caring about the make of the man. That's going to be a bunch of Hank's central thrust for this episode, and that's
yeah. And to Hank's credit, Con is kind of a fucking asshole.
We'll definitely get into it. Con's a dick,
and so is Min.
Min's a
Min
dick
sucks
too.
Also. That like kind of everyone in this episode is a prick.
Yes, the adults.
Should
are
we hit him with
different
another
things.
LAOS fact?
Yeah,
we peppered in a little racism. Let's get a little
Give me a
LAOS
LAOS
fact
fact.
in there. Laotians consume more sticky rice than anyone else in the world.
Shout out.
Sounds like a place I'd like
Yeah,
to
dude.
live.
They're defending the throne. Damn, sticky rice sounds so good right now.
I don't know if you noticed whenever Hank comes up to introduce himself, Khan is just like backing away.
Yes.
Like Hank is like getting really close and shakes his hand and like almost breaks his hand, and Khan is just kind of like off put
Yes.
by the friendliness or the, I guess, what Hank intends to be friendliness.
Yes. I really liked this episode a whole lot.
See, I didn't.
Oh really?
I
The
kinda-
humor is
yeah.
crass, but I love the Souphanousinphones. So just like
I
this
do
is their
too,
first
which
episode,
is
I'm like
weird.
super psyched to have them.
Yeah, maybe you can turn me around on it.
Khan is going to be set up, throughout the rest of the show to kind of be the foil to Hank in a lot of ways. He's going to be Khan's going to be the, move in a different direction, kind of rubbing you the wrong way. He's going to provide a lot of abrasion in the rest of the show. I also think it's funny that Khan and Hank's names all contain the same letters. That was something that I wrote down. I don't know how important that is. But I was like, whoa.
Very,
Whoa.
very important.
They're spelled similar.
Whoa, man.
Yeah.
Khan, are you sure
Whoa.
you weren't high when you watched this?
Whoa. So Hank introduces himself, Khan introduces himself, and Hank says, so that's pronounced Khan, right?
Khan, right? He says Souphanousinphone, and Hank is just like, I'm not even
So
going to
that's
try it.
pronounced Khan. Yeah.
And then they straight up ask him if he's Chinese or Japanese, and he says he's Laotian, and Bill just goes, the ocean?
Yes. That is one of that line, that joke has stuck with me for a very long time.
Just anytime you hear someone say they're Laotian.
They ask, so Khan, where are you from? And he initially says California for the last 20 years, but originally from Laotian. So they're not even
So
focusing.
a fun fact that I read as I was doing my research that I actually remember that just kind of came back to me from all these years. I used to watch a lot of these shows reruns in French.
Oui.
I would watch The Simpsons and King of the Hill. If this is your first episode, I'm Canadian. I grew up in Canada, in French Canada specifically, and in the
Worst part.
French Canadian, yeah, kind of. In the French Canadian version of this episode, when Khan says that he's lived in California for the last 20 years, he says he's lived in New Brunswick for the last 20 years,
Ooh.
which is where I'm from.
Ooh.
And I have a vague recollection of hearing that watching the French version of this episode.
Oh,
So
that's cute. But they completely ignore the
Thank you.
fact that Khan has been living in California, which I think would be a bigger deal for the Texans, at least this day and age.
probably.
But
Yeah. Maybe not so much in the 90s.
so yeah, one of the classic jokes of this episode, and for me of the show that stuck around a long time, was Bill saying, "You're from the ocean." No, stupid Laos. It's a landlocked country. And then he says, like,
Yeah, maybe don't do the
sorry,
voice.
I slipped into it. We get then a shot of thank you Peggy and Luann on the inside of the house. Peggy is definitely going to have, I think, the most offensive takes in this episode.
Yeah, the whole like welcome to our country.
Yes.
Like they've lived here for over 20 years.
Yes, Peggy is definitely the most
There was a
offensive.
really good Luann when they're
Uh-huh.
talking about it, and Luann is there. She says something about how in beauty school, like
They
what was the
she
quote?
says at beauty school they don't I wrote it down here. She says people aren't black, white, yellow, or red, but their hair
but
can
their
be.
hair can be.
But their hair can be, which is definitely very like
That's beautiful, actually.
also for white people to be like, no, race doesn't matter. We don't see race.
I don't see color.
I don't see color. Yeah. Luann. I thought that was funny. That's like the only line we're gonna get from Luann this episode, I think.
Well, there's also another banger of a line from Luann later on when her and Peggy are in the car.
Oh,
That was probably my favorite part of
yes.
the whole episode.
Yeah.
Whenever they're going to get pizza.
So Peggy, I definitely think she's the worst in this. And while they're standing in the kitchen, Peggy says, she read that the Chinese language has 70 words for rice, but no words for friend. That's where she decides, we're gonna invite him over for dinner. She says they have 70 words for rice, but no words for friend, which, like, holy shit.
Laos fact.
Laos fact.
Laos is home to the largest waterfall in Southeast Asia.
Damn, that sounds beautiful. Are you going to try to pronounce it or no?
Nope.
Nice. Are you going to edit in a picture of the waterfall for our viewers here?
I am definitely going to edit in a picture of the waterfall. Here you go, viewers.
Oh, wow.
Look at that. That's cool, huh?
Wow. Oh, my God.
But yeah, when they're eating dinner, I did really enjoy that Connie was just scarfing the food down, and Hank's like, "Come on, Bobby, keep up."
Yes,
she's lapping.
Before we get to the dinner, though, we get a scene of in Con and Min's kitchen with the handmade invite, and this is where we start to get to see that first glimpse of Con is an asshole. So, and this is also where we see them taking the kind of like stereotypical racist humor and letting Souphanousinphones deliver it. So the invitation shows up and it says howdy on the front, and Con says howdy. If you're going to live in this country, learn to speak English, which I just thought was so funny that they let Con deliver that line. Howdy.
That is good.
And this is where we establish that Con hates rednecks, which will be a thing basically the entire show, of Con kind of always looking down on the neighbors, kind of as like uncouth, uncultured rednecks, and the redneck derision will come up again here. But yeah,
and it kind of seems that Hank associates the word redneck just with racism.
Yeah,
like what would you classify as what is the actual definition of a redneck? Because is it just someone from the South? Are you a redneck, Chris?
It's geographical to an extent, but I think it's much more lifestyle and philosophy focused. I don't know. You'd probably have to ask an actual redneck. I'm from Oklahoma, but I don't consider myself a redneck.
Yeah, Edmond.
Not Edmond. Yeah, I don't think it's just geographical. It's probably more of a way of life, lifestyle thing. Hank does kind of equate it with what we would consider like white trash. I know there's a lot of people that claim the name redneck and do, try to put some positive spin on it, but Hank kind of equates it with like white trash, low class. So that's...
Well, it seems like he's directly equating it with, because whenever he says it's got nothing to do with him being Chinese, I ain't no redneck.
Yeah, I think I think there are folks that would use the term redneck and encompass racism within that. Some people would probably say that like you calling someone a redneck in a negative way would imply that they have a bunch of racism within them as well, which I don't think is true of rednecks, or at least that's Hank's view of it. So you're
saying that they're multi-dimensional, layered, complex human beings with nuanced values, opinions, and points of views.
I never thought about it like that before. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but that is Hank's rub with it. I think Hank does see redneck as an insult because I think he thinks racism is a part of that word redneck. But yeah, the Souphanousinphones come over for dinner. Oh, I forgot. Min also has a line here where she begs Con to please not piss off the neighbors. And we kind of get some clue here of why they maybe left Laos or left California.
Because Con's an asshole.
Yeah, it's because Con is an asshole and ruins relationships with his neighbors, and that's why they've had to move, which I think is pretty funny. So the Souphanousinphones come over to the house. Peggy does the slow talking, like, welcome to our country.
Welcome to our country.
Peggy definitely the most offensive here. Con compliments Hank's house, and Hank says a real funny Hank line. He says lead free since 1988, which I think is just a nice King of the Hill Hank line to have. Yeah, Connie is scarfing down the food. Hank tells Bobby he's gonna catch up. The girl's beating him, and Con Jr. Connie compliments Peggy's cooking, says she's never had beef chop suey before, which breaks Peggy's brain. She has a very confused look on her face, and she says, "Oh, you poor thing." Peggy is going to bust out another racist ass assumption fact here.
Hit him with
She's
it.
gonna
Hit him with
she's
it.
gonna start out with the "I read somewhere." Of course, she says that she read
Oh,
somewhere.
yeah, she.
She read it. She says, "In certain parts of China, meat is as scarce as toilet paper." Khan immediately calls her out and says, "Where
Yeah.
did you read that?" And Peggy says, "Oh, who can remember?" and just goes on talking.
Well, she says that as a substitute teacher, she has to read a lot of materials, and she says maybe on a placemat.
Yeah.
Which what the fuck? But it's so offensive.
Peggy is definitely the worst in this episode.
Can we also talk about Connie being named Con Jr.?
Yes, they'll talk.
Like, come on, man.
There's a line later on about why she's named Con Jr.
I don't really remember like how Connie's character develops, but I really hope that she does develop into less of a one-dimensional
Dude, she
stereotype
definitely is.
of the straight A student.
She's one of the best characters.
Okay.
in
I
my
remember
opinion.
liking Connie a lot, and I want to, but it just sucks that that's the introduction.
I've always liked Connie later on in the series. To me, she kind of has like the Topanga effect a little bit, in where like,
and that she's
yeah,
hot.
that cartoon is fine. No, in that edit that out. Edit that out.
Feel it in my holes, I am rectangular.
No, you know, like where the boyfriend's a real like goofball type of character, and the girlfriend is a real intelligent, real like superstar of a character.
I call that the Adam Sandler effect.
Yeah, Connie's great. So yeah, Peggy says that dumb shit about beef and not being able to remember where she read this fact from. So
That
funny.
was on a placemat.
Con gets a little in this episode. Con is kind of this scene. Con is kind of an asshole and says some abrasive things. He wants to know why Arlen's test scores are so low. So kind of insulting the intelligence of the town.
It's because Con Jr. isn't there. Yeah,
It's because Con Jr. is.
But also, like, you can't really blame him for being an asshole.
Yeah.
Like, Peggy just said something
Yeah,
super
that's true.
offensive, and these people have pretty much only said ignorant shit.
Oh,
to
you're
them.
right. The Hills and the neighbors definitely
So they're just
started
hitting
it.
him back.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's equal parts. I understand where Con is coming
Certainly.
from. As an immigrant myself.
Canadian.
Bruh.
Brett. We do get a funny like Hank, being proud of his son thing here, where he does give Bobby a compliment. He does say that Bobby has near perfect attendance.
He may not have the best test scores, but he has
near perfect attendance.
And my favorite part about that is Bobby's face. Like, he looks really proud of himself when Hank says that.
Yeah, that's something to be proud of, Bobby.
Yeah, sure it is.
So we kind of cut to the end of the dinner there. Con is going to openly insult the dinner by saying that at least the Brown Betty was good.
And it was Peggy's
family recipe.
Famous family Brown Betty recipe.
The Brown Betty is going to become a pivotal part of Peggy and Min's rub later on in the episode. But yeah, Con openly says, at least the Brown Betty was good. Pretty rude. Peggy, says it's her secret family recipe. She starts, I thought this was really funny of Peggy. She starts to give instructions on taking it home, and she goes, "Now what you want to do is reheat it for 10 minutes." And then she stops herself and she goes, "I've said way too much." Like, just telling somebody how to reheat it is like too much, like closely guarded family recipe.
Yeah. This was definitely the most I felt the part of Peggy's character where she just thinks that everything she does is so special and amazing.
Yes.
Like, it was very heavy on that.
Very
this episode.
Core part of Peggy's personality.
Yeah. Like, everything is so normal. I don't know when Spaghetti and Meatballs comes up.
Hell yeah.
But do you remember
I
that?
can't wait for that episode. It's probably in the
Her,
first season.
Spaghetti recipe. Yeah, it's got to be coming up soon.
So yeah, Peggy's got a family recipe. And then here's where Peggy is going to get insulted. After saying some real off the cuff shit, at dinner, Min is going to notice Peggy's shoes, and she's going to say,
Back to the feet.
wow, Peggy Hill,
We're back on the feet.
what big feet you have. She puts her shoes on, and she's like, I'm a little girl in mama's shoes. And Peggy gets
Starts walking around.
steamed.
I mean, that's fucked up. That's a fucked up thing.
Yes,
to do.
it was. It was a little bit insulting.
And Khan like pulls her out of the fucking house too, and Peggy slams the door. And Hank is in socks.
Yes, they asked them to take
Peggy's
at the beginning of the scene. They asked him when they come in to take their shoes off, and Khan's like, what? Did you get your
shampoo
carpet?
the carpet? Yeah, no shampoo.
Yeah. So funny. So yeah,
but that's like equally mean.
yes,
Maybe not equally, because the other side of it is xenophobia and racism and ignorance, and the other one's just like, hey, you got real big feet.
and this I think also is going to be a little bit of Min's personality throughout the show. She kind of acts sometimes without thinking a little bit. She really doesn't necessarily have a filter all the time. Min,
yeah, it seems like the fake nice is her, at least in this episode. She's trying to befriend Peggy after this, but everything that she does is still kind of underhanded and mean.
Later on, the husbands are going to have more of that direct aggression, where the wives are going to have a little bit more of that indirect aggression. This is why I love this episode.
Passive aggression is what.
A lot going on in this, but after they shut the door, Peggy's like, you don't just come into a woman's house and insult her feet. You just don't.
Which is true.
Hank says, there's just more of you to love, and steps towards Peggy to give her a kiss and steps on her toe, which I thought was a great visual gag.
You hear a crack. He's so far away from her.
He's so far. He steps on her toes.
She just goes, ow.
Yeah, I thought that joke really got me. I was like, man, that was nice. But Hank saying there's just more of you to love. Does Hank have a foot fetish?
I feet have come up. I think Mike Judge might have a foot
It's
fetish.
7 episodes, and there's a lot of feet content so far, Michael.
We've talked about feet a lot on this podcast.
No Mike judgment.
I mean, come on, man.
Hey.
You can't be coming at me with
It's like
that on a
baby.
fucking Saturday morning,
Yeah,
dude. With that kind of gas, that kind of fire. You're throwing me off with that heat, man.
So after the
Come on. No, let's talk about it.
after the dinner, I don't want to talk about feet. Let's talk about feet off the air.
We always do.
Always do.
What are you
tune
doing,
into the-
step bro?
Go check out the Patreon for us ranking the feet of the people in Arlen.
Yeah, every episode on the Patreon, we record it and we say all of the exact same stuff. We listen back, but it's just a shot of our feet.
Mm-hmm. It's like our feet are the
and
hosts.
we re-record it, but we only shoot our feet.
So give us money and you can see that.
Yep.
After the dinner party, we get kind of like a cut to the next day. The sun is out again. Hank and Bobby come out to the front yard from the side gate, and Hank says, "Watch out, Bobby, that's one of those Chinese fighting dogs." And Connie says, "It's a West Highland Terrier." And Hank goes, "That's it." So freaking dumb.
Very much not an Asian
Yes,
dog.
and then Hank is going to talk down and patronize Con Jr. here by asking what its name is. She says Doggy, which is his name, and Hank does the, I know it's a doggy. What's his name? And he says that's also a doggy, but her name is Ladybird. So this is where we get the Westie Side Story. This is our Romeo and Juliet, so to speak, of the family conflict here is going to be Doggy and Ladybird. So Hank starts talking about Ladybird and how she's a full-blood Georgia bloodhound. He makes a claim that her mama tracked down James Earl Ray. Do you know
who was convicted for the assassination of Martin Luther King
correct.
Jr.
And then
but we all know that the fucking FBI did that shit, right?
Whoa, dog. Whoa.
I mean, let's talk about it.
I mean, yes, they kind of did.
I mean, I didn't say that. I'll edit that out.
Yeah, while we're talking about incorrect facts in this episode, Hank states that Lady Bird's mom tracked down James Earl Ray, but James Earl Ray was apprehended overseas in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Yeah.
couple inaccurate things here, shall we say?
One being that the FBI killed Martin Luther King.
And the other that Lady Bird's mother
Allegedly.
tracked it down.
Allegedly. I know the FBI is watching this. We definitely got some Roberts in the FBI.
Shout out to Agent Carson Roberts watching us through our webcams right now.
Love you, bud.
Bonjour.
Actually, let me
So yeah, Hank
put my webcam cover on.
Hank is just oh yeah, me too. Hank is mentioning to Con, kind of bragging about his dog and how he's just found a breeding partner for her. And Bobby off screen says, "Dad, look, Doggy and Lady Bird like each other." And Hank doesn't acknowledge his son or doesn't look, and he says, "Of course they like each other. They're neighbors."
What the dog doing?
He's really trying to force the whole neighbor thing here. But Hank does finally notice that Doggy has mounted Lady Bird, and gets super upset, starts yelling about, get your dog, leash up your dog.
Sprays him with the hose, but it seems like he's mostly just spraying Lady Bird with the hose.
Con is kind of being a jerk. He's laughing.
I mean, it's
a
funny.
Whole lot. It is funny. He says, "Your Lady Bird, she's a real slut."
She's
and Hank says, "She's not a slut. She's in heat." He says, "Her hormones have overwhelmed her natural modesty." So Hank gets real upset there. They finally get the two separated, and
this is really where the feud
begins.
The neighborly feud. This is the real feud fire starter.
Yeah, Hank says some coded stuff here that if you replaced some words in this next sentence would be real racist. He says that Lady Bird can only love another pure blood Georgia bloodhound.
And then he's like, "You are a redneck."
Yes. Con says, "I think you're a narrow-minded redneck." Hank says, "Just because I'm from Texas, I have to be some sort of a redneck." And then he says, like the Chinese and their stereotypes.
Chinese and your damn stereotypes. That strikes me as time for another LAOS fact.
Yes, and that's actually where we go into the first commercial break, is at the crux there.
Which is also the perfect time for a
LAOS
fucking LAOS fact.
Yeah, dude, give me a LAOS fact.
LAOS is home of the discovery site of the oldest modern human fossil in Southeast Asia.
That's cool.
An ancient skull was discovered in Tom Pa Ling Cave in the Annamite Mountains in northern Laos, as well as an even older jawbone, which is at least 46,000 years old.
My lord.
Yeah. But kind of on the note of neighbor feuds, have you ever had like a feud with a neighbor? Have you ever had a neighbor that you just fucking hated?
No, not in recent times. No, I have definitely been a hated neighbor, though. In college, particularly, there was
bold of you to admit that.
Yeah, there was a house we had sophomore year that we threw a lot of social functions at, and the lady across the street absolutely hated us. But there were a couple other
social functions.
She was surrounded.
I bet it was a real rager.
She was surrounded by a bunch of college dude houses, so every weekend the street was just kind of clogged up. So I have been a bad neighbor before, but I don't think I've actually had a neighbor that I've had beef with. I'm pretty good relationship with my neighbors down here. What about you?
Not any like serious beefs. I lived in a house in Oklahoma City where there was like a lot next to us that this like landscaping company
I remember that.
operated from illegally. And they would steal our compost and use our trash cans all the time without asking us, and like cut through our driveway. And I guess there was like beef between him and the house owner because he kept trying to buy this house.
Interesting.
Because he wanted to just turn it into a lot for his landscaping business. He was a real asshole.
Yeah, I remember that spot.
So I would just kind of do like passive aggressive stuff to him. When I first moved to Oregon, I lived in this really shitty apartment with the thinnest walls in the world, and the neighbor above me yeah, she was like coked out all the time.
Ooh.
And also had like a 12-year-old who was home alone all
Oh,
the
no.
time playing Call of Duty and like screaming in his
Cursing
room.
and yelling.
And I would just go and like move her welcome mat around, and if it was snowing, I would like block her parking spot with a bunch of snow, because she was real mean and passive aggressive to me.
The Hill Kings podcast, where one of the hosts is a petty little biatch.
And the other one is a super
The other
cool
one is
party guy.
The other one is a self-righteous asshole. I love.
Which one is which?
You decide.
It's up to you.
So yeah, after this my dog can only love another pureblood Georgia bloodhound. That's where we go into the first commercial break.
Hank ties up Ladybird.
Yeah, we cut to Hank tying up Ladybird to, quote, protect her virtue. I think this scene is really funny because they then step away and a whole squad of dogs runs over to Ladybird.
She gets gangbanged.
Yes, I thought that was a pretty funny visual gag.
Yeah.
What the dog doing?
Ladybird's like purity is going to be a big thing for Hank in a lot of other episodes. You know, he's really protective of Ladybird and her ladiness and her purity.
No offense to anyone who has like a purebred dog and is really into that kind of thing, but I always found it kind of weird.
I'm okay with whatever dog you want to have. I think it's weird to
Yeah, but like being like really obsessed with the like
Yeah,
bloodline of your dog.
that's
like,
a little
that's
a little much for me. But there'll be other Ladybird episodes.
adopt,
for
don't
sure.
shop.
Yeah, all dogs are good dogs.
All dogs go to heaven also.
That's a great movie. So the boys, after the dogs run over to Ladybird, the boys are, drinking beers like they normally are, and we see Con riding by on a fancy new imported mower.
Sexy little import.
Sexy little import. Bill asks, why don't maybe Con will let you borrow it? And this is where Hank starts to talk about, just not liking him. He says he'd rather mow his entire quarter acre with a lady bick before he borrows that man's mower. He says, I just don't like him. The gang kind of accuse Hank of some racism. Dale says, is that you don't like him because he's Japanese? Maybe he says Korean. He says something that's incorrect.
Yeah, I think he says Japanese, and Bill says he's Korean.
Yeah.
They just can't get it right.
But Hank says, I don't like the man. He says, I'm no redneck. I don't like the man. He says, another classic white person line, I don't care if he's from Mars, or also in modern day times, if you could be purple. So Hank says he doesn't care if he's from Mars, and we get a little bit of Dale conspiracy. Dale kind of jumps in and says, you would care if he was from Mars after he steals all of your drinkable water to send back to his home planet, Mars.
I need to get a like conspiracy song to play for Dale.
It's a little too jazzy. You need some.
We'll work
some,
on
like,
it. We'll
Twilight
workshop
shit.
it. Yeah. Twilight Zone, or Twilight, the movie with the vampires.
Go with what your heart feels.
All right. Tune in next week, y'all.
So after we get the boys' discussion on the mower and how Hank, doesn't like the man, doesn't care where he's from, we get the scene of Peggy and Luann, who are going to pick up some pizza. And
this is my favorite.
I wrote
scene
this down
in
too.
this episode.
Luann's other line. She's like, what's the rush? After 30 minutes, it's free. And they're going to pick it up.
Good.
Which is
like, how did Luann carry this episode and she only had 2 lines?
Yeah, that's what she do. That the whole 30 minutes or it's free thing. Have you ever actually encountered that in the wild or in real life?
I have.
Are you talking about Pizza Shuttle?
When I was in college, I got
Shuttle.
I got numerous free
Shout
pizzas.
out Pizza Shuttle.
Because them motherfuckers were slow as shit.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah.
I would like exclusively order from one of those locations because they never delivered on time. And I was the king of getting free pizza in college.
Hell yeah.
I would show up to functions of clubs that I never intended to join just to get the free pizza.
Hey.
Like, oh yeah, the Mormon Brotherhood of Oklahoma, sure.
And you're chapter president
Shout
now?
out.
Is that right?
Yeah. Still am. Still keeping the old ruse
Bless
going.
you. But yeah, Luann and
I have 6 wives.
shout out to all 6 Morettes.
Yeah. Put up 6 pictures of my wife.
Just with like a different hat on. Hilarious. But yeah, Peggy and Luann are gonna go get some pizza. Luann says, it's 30 minutes or it's free, and they did just a real nice bit of pause work there. Just Peggy just gives her a nice long pause. So they're driving, and Min runs out into the road, and Peggy waits until the very last moment to stop.
Peggy like straight up almost hits her with her car.
And she goes, "Oh, Min, I almost didn't see you there." Just being a real biatch. I get why there's Peggy hate out there from this episode. This really shows us a lot of Peggy hate, but
yeah, I think Min is maybe just as bad.
She's bringing it out of her, but yeah, so Peggy says, "I almost didn't see you there." Min does apologize to Peggy here in the street. She says she was very rude last night, and she said something I only should have thought. Which I think is a funny apology, because it wasn't really an apology to Peggy. It was more of like, "I'm sorry I said that," not like, "I'm sorry that hurt you."
I should have just kept that on the inside.
Which I thought was really funny. So Min invites the Hills over for a barbecue to make up for it. Peggy's going to be very patronizing to Min here and tell her, like, if you want to know what a barbecue is, or like even how to do it, just ask.
Yeah.
Super.
I mean, they are new to Texas. Barbecues aren't really a thing in California, but that still is a really shitty, annoying thing of Peggy to say.
Mm-hmm.
Another note on the Foley in this episode, just the sound effects. Whenever Peggy is patting Min's hand, it's just like so noticeable how
like loud it is, like
loud and separated the hand noises are. Again, nitpicky, and I was really high when I watched this episode.
We get a cut back over to the boys drinking beer. Hank is continuing his spiel about he hates the man because he's rude and nasty, not because of what his people did in WW2.
Is this not when him and Peggy are eating the pizza?
Oh, it is. You're right. Sorry, I thought it was back to the guys.
And Peggy, I couldn't tell what Peggy was eating. Hank was eating a piece of pizza, and every time he picked it up, it was a full slice of pizza again.
Mm-hmm.
There was just like no continuity. And why was it just Peggy was eating something with a fork, and I don't think it was pizza. I think it was like a salad.
I did not pay that much attention to that.
Well, again, I rewatched last night, and I was under the influence and very highly focused on what was going on in this scene in particular. But why wasn't Bobby there? They're eating dinner. Luann went with them to pick up the pizza.
You're asking too many questions.
And it's just Hank and Peggy eating the pizza. I think I was just hungry.
You're asking.
Also, I maybe had the munchies a little.
So many questions.
Anyway, that's just what I noticed.
Yeah, it was
But Peggy does say it's not because they're Oriental.
Yes.
In that scene.
Yes. This is where we get Peggy saying, like, Hank doesn't want to go to the barbecue. Peggy says, like, if you don't go, the people in this town are going to say, like, "Oh, there's Hank Hill. He's a racist." Hank thinks that the Souphanousinphones are Japanese here because he says they're, he hates him because he's rude and nasty, not because of what his people did in WW2.
Yeah, let's not talk about what the U.S. did to Japan in WW2.
Yeah.
Go watch Oppenheimer for that.
Pretty nasty line there. Hank also says, "What kind of country is this that I can only hate a man if he's white?" Which I think is kind of funny.
Yeah, also something that you would hear some racist people saying.
Yeah, that's something
in present time.
Shitty dudes will fall back on today as like a "well, how come?" or like a "what if?" So then we get cutscene over to the barbecue. Khan is gonna say, like, "Howdy, howdy, howdy," again, kind of patronizingly using their greeting against them. Hank has brought a gift of propane. Khan,
the best gift of them all.
Khan says, like, oh no, I only use mesquite. He says, gives meat nice taste of wood. And Hank says, I use propane. Gives meat nice taste of meat.
And I sell propane and propane accessories.
Taste the meat, not the heat is going to be a big philosophical cornerstone for Hank.
Yes, but when Khan cooks these burgers, Hank
They're
says
damn
it's the
good.
best burger he's ever had.
When the boys
maybe propane sucks.
When the boys start to, kind of butt heads here at the grill about the propane versus charcoal, Min comes over and diffuses the situation. She, tells Khan to be polite. I had a very funny line written down here from Khan that says, you honor me by giving me gas, which I thought was pretty funny. But then, yeah, we get some nice, we get a little cutaway here at the barbecue. This is where we start to see what Connie and Bobby are up to. So Connie and Bobby seems to became friends pretty quickly. We don't really get a scene of the first time that they start talking. We're assuming that the dinner is the first time that they kind of met, but by the middle of this episode, they are already like hanging out and being friends.
Yeah.
Connie says, like, I'm just kind of like Doggy. I've only got one friend in this town. Bobby wonders if the leash tastes like a Bible cover. It's kind of funny.
And Connie's line about doing like SAT, like memorizing SAT
yes
questions or something. And Bobby just goes, "What's a SAT?"
Yes, that one comes in there a little further along. I also thought Bobby says something really funny and kind of child innocent here. To Connie, he says it was fun to watch the dogs play piggyback.
Yeah. And then Connie decides that they should free them so that they can be together. Lets Doggy go. Doggy immediately starts to run over to Ladybird, and then a car goes by, and Doggy chases the car.
Yeah.
And Connie chases after, and Bobby stays behind and starts chewing on the leash to see if it does taste like a Bible cover.
So funny. Yeah. So they let Doggy off the leash. Doggy runs off. So that's what Connie and Bobby are up to. We cut back over to the picnic, and here's where we see Peggy and Min are, kind of doing that, like, oh, bless your heart, friendly to each other's faces type of thing. And this is really where Min is going to slap Peggy in the face, proverbially again. Min whips out, she says, Peggy Hill, I made your brown Betty. She says, but it was, she says, I made it much better. It was missing one thing. It was missing flavor. So Min
and like forces it into Peggy's mouth, and she's immediately like, "What the fuck?"
Like, it's so good. But here's another example of Min just like maybe not necessarily having a super good filter. She just like says like it was missing flavor, and she's like super like happy to tell Peggy about it.
Yeah. So mean. And there's like another lady there that agrees.
She's like,
she's basically like, yeah, Peggy, your brown Betty fucking sucks.
She said, I could never
dude.
keep, it was hard to keep your brown Betty down, but this is amazing. Yeah.
What is a brown Betty?
It's like I think
that
it's
like a
apple
South thing?
No, I think it's an apple-based dessert. Apple brown Betty. I think it's like
She doesn't say apple brown.
I know,
Betty,
but I think
she?
I don't know. I think it has to do with like the crumble on the top.
Delicious apple brown Betty brings crisp sweet apples with a touch of lemon together with crunchy cinnamon nutmeg topping. So it's supposed to have.
Yeah, it's like a heavy cake. It's like a little cake thing.
Okay, I think I've had this.
The boys are worried about the burgers. They're wanting Khan to flip him. They're like, Khan, you got to flip those. You're gonna flip them.
That's too much
Flip 'em
char.
now, yeah. And Khan getting kind of fed up with it, just takes some of the burger and shoves it into, I think Bill's mouth. Maybe does kind of the same thing where Min does, and he's like, shut up and try it. And all the boys fall in love with the burger. Some of the best burger they've ever tasted.
Sorry, I just this is gonna be the longest episode we've ever done. I googled Brown Betty, and I found an article called "Brown Betty: Dessert or Racial Epithet."
Well,
and
let's get into it.
The historical connotation of the Brown Betty is racist. Also,
oh my gosh. My gosh.
Let's do another Laos
Yeah, dude,
fact.
give us clean our palates with a Lao
Let's
fact.
hit him. Let's hit him with a Laos. Did you know, Crisp, that Laos is home to a surprising abundance of wildlife? The lush jungles of Laos are home to a stunning abundance of wildlife, and this country is the breeding grounds of king cobras,
Ooh.
white-cheeked gibbons,
What'd you
tigers,
call me?
Asian black bears. Exactly. They have sun bears. Have you ever seen a sun bear?
Yeah,
They're so cool. I guess they have
it's
elephants
a great
as
name
well,
for an
so-
animal. Also, a sun bear. It's freaking cute.
Laos seems beautiful.
Yeah, dude.
The Pokemon Ursaring, fuck, I'm such a nerd, is based on the sun bear.
Oh wow, hilarious! You are hella nerdy, huh?
Yeah.
So
I
after
just started reading the original Pokemon manga.
Ooh, look at him.
Highly recommend. I have like 6 Pokemon tattoos. I've been a Pokemon fan my entire life, and I've never read the
Pokemans?
manga.
Pokemans?
You know, Pikachu.
Pikachu's. So after the boys taste the Borg, and the burger is tasty, we cut back to Bobby and Connie looking for Doggy. This is where Connie laments about her father being too controlling, and she says, like, he's making me study all these words for the SAT. He's such an autocrat. And the joke is that you think they cut to Bobby and you think Bobby's going to ask what an autocrat is, but he goes, "What's a SAT?"
That was a good line.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. Really, really playing up the Bobby dumb, Connie smart dichotomy. Is this where Connie and Bobby decide they're going to take Ladybird off the leash since she's a bloodhound? Yes, it is. So they're like, wait, maybe Ladybird can track them, and they're running with Ladybird, and Bobby just cannot keep up. He's sweating super hard, and he drops the leash, and Ladybird runs off as well.
And this is after this scene where Hank tries the burger, and he says something along the lines of that Asians can make everything
He said
better.
There's nothing these people can't make better. And he says, like, the automobile, the color TV, and like all these things. And Peggy is like,
so he's pretty much turned around, and now Peggy has turned the opposite direction and fucking hates
they
them.
flip-flop, yep. And
for good reason. I mean, a family recipe, like, that would be like, if you're from Oklahoma, what's like a famous Oklahoma? Do you have like a family like skunk recipe?
Yeah, dude,
in like an Edmond delicacy or something.
It's skunk schnitzel, dude. And
skunk schnitzel. That would be like if someone stole
you go
your
out
famous...
into the road and you scrape it off the road, and you got a nice little skunk schnitzel.
Delicious.
Yeah, so Peggy's mad. She says, like, I bet it's a dash of nutmeg is, like how they do it. Min is also going to say something very insulting here at this scene to Peggy. Hank is kind of lounging back, patting his stomach, being full and happy. Min comes over with the recipe, and she goes, I give you recipe, so now you can please your husband.
I'm about to bust.
So yeah, Min gives her the recipe, which is not something Peggy did for Min. Peggy was not comfortable giving the recipe to Min.
Which is also kind of a backhanded move on Min's part.
Yeah.
I mean, respect to Min, honestly. She's good at it.
She really is.
She's good at
She really is.
At being this way.
So the boys are leaving the barbecue. Everyone's talking about the burgers and, how many they ate. And somebody asks Dale how many he ate. And Dale says he ate 0. And they're like, why? And this is where we get the other really big offensive racial stereotype joke for the season. Dale says he doesn't eat dog because they have
what the dog doing?
They found Ladybird's leash. So that's,
and Doggy is also
gone. So that's going to be your big worst kind of racial stereotype joke for the rest of the season, is the eat dog thing, or the rest of the episode is the eating dog thing. And after that line from Dale, they do cut to commercial break. So our big commercial breaks cuts this episode. First one was the neighbors are Asian, cut to commercial break. The second one was somebody thinks the Asian neighbors eat dog. So it's a pretty pretty rough episode.
Yeah. Well, the last commercial break was whenever Con and Hank get in a fight, and Hank says like "damn Chinese" and their stereotypes too. So we're 3 for 3 actually.
Yeah.
We've got the cut to the theme song. We've got first and second commercial breaks. Speaking of commercial breaks, though, should we hit him with another LAOS fact?
I thought you were going to throw to ads. Just kidding. We don't have.
Yeah,
we don't have
sponsors
those,
yet. Reach out.
We cut back to after the commercial break, and Hank does call out that eating dog stereotype. He says, like, that's not true. That's just a stereotype. Peggy follows up with, if they're crazy enough to use nutmeg. Peggy is really still steamed about the whole
Which I will
thing.
reiterate is in the recipe. Like,
for the racist
that I Googled,
dish,
the
Brown
first
Betty.
thing that came up for Brown Betty was that it contains nutmeg. It's one of the key ingredients of Brown Betty.
After Dale has put this conspiracy theory out there, Bill looks like he kind of liked it. Bill seems like comfortable with eating dog.
Kind of seems like Bill is okay with
Bill is okay
dogs,
with
yeah.
it. Bill says, well, they did invent paper whenever Hank's trying to, defend Asian people. So Bill says some dumb shit, but Bill does seem to be pretty okay with eating dog. He licks his fingers and talking about, like, I got to get this nasty taste off him. Bill cracks me up. So Hank is going to sneak into the Souphanousinphone's backyard after the barbecue. He's got his weed eater. He goes over to the window and overhears Min on the phone. We're guessing that Min is calling like the pound or the animal shelter to look for Doggy, and she says, like, she's looking for sweet Doggy, little Doggy, maybe however many, a couple of pounds. And this solidifies for Hank that maybe they actually are eating dog because he overhears Min on the phone. The rest of this episode, we're really going to get a big example of kind of like white hysteria and misobserving or misinterpreting things and running with it. Which, in the history of the United States, white people misinterpreting things leads to substantial loss of life in the history of the United States. So we get
one LAOS fact for you that I found in my LAOS research. Apparently, Laos is considered by many to be the most bombed nation in the world.
Yes.
I guess they were heavily bombed during the Vietnam War, and still to this day, people die from stepping on old grenades.
Yes, and you
in Laos.
Can directly thank Henry Kissinger for that. It was a lot of his decision to drop bombs on Laos and Cambodia. So shout out to Henry Kissinger, bad dude.
You can't say that this podcast is not informative.
Other podcast plug. If you folks don't listen to,
we don't plug. I'm bleeping that shit. We don't plug other podcasts on this shit.
Educate yourself about who Henry Kissinger is.
We'll link to the episode in the description that you're talking about, but I'm not saying the name of another show on my fucking shit.
B2B. So yeah.
Bleeping that. Bleeping it all.
Hank is Hank gets spotted. Hank gets spotted by the Souphanousinphones, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And he's like, "Oh, I can't hear you." He just starts up his weed whacker really quick because he's been caught, and he definitely cuts their flowers down, which pisses off the Souphanousinphones. They're like, "You're crazy."
Calls him a crazy redneck.
Understandably very mad if your neighbor is spying on you and then cuts your flowers down. Like, it's messed up.
Yeah.
So they're right to be mad at him.
There's one point where Bill mentions something about a blow dart and then gets stung by a bee,
yeah,
right?
so it's Dale. Hank comes back to the crew.
Or Dale, yeah. Sorry.
Hank comes back to the crew and says, like, Dale, I think you might be right. Dale says, now that they've spotted you and they're going to be coming after you and to watch your back. Dale says they'll probably use blow darts. That's their way. So we get some racism there from Dale, but Dale says, to watch out for blow darts. Bill, at one point in time here, I can't recall exact. Oh, they're talking about, Dale is talking about how they're going to hunt Hank. Bill wonders. Bill says, why would they want to kill Hank? Bill says human meat is like tough and tasteless or something like that. He's like, why don't they just go get more dog? I wrote down, why does Bill know what human meat tastes like? In this episode, Bill references the fact that it doesn't taste well and is like tough or something. So something tells me Bill knows what human tastes like. Who knows?
Or he's just guessing.
The gang goes out to the front and discovers that Ladybird is missing. Dale crouches down next to the dog bowl with water in it and says, it's still wet. Maybe there's time, which I thought was funny. He's doing his whole tracker thing. But then, yeah, as they get up to run, that's when Dale gets bit by a mosquito and falls to the ground thinking he's been hit by a blow dart.
Yeah.
Very, very Dale thing to do.
Yep, and they all run to go look for Ladybird. Hank runs up to their window and sees Min chopping some meat. Confronts them, and then somehow a huge crowd forms.
That was something I had
never
noted.
Seen
that
anymore.
All of a sudden there are strangers out of nowhere at the front door,
and they are all just crowded to watch the argument between the new neighbor and Hank.
It starts to boil up. Hank says, he wants his dog back. The dogs before it goes to blows, because Con's got his bat.
Yeah, that's right. Con just genuinely thinks that this guy is fucking insane.
Yes, which from Con's point, he looks very insane because he doesn't know what they've got in their head. So
a little wild.
Con is on the right to be defensive, but the kids before it comes to blow, the kids come up and admit to losing the dogs, and Hank says like, oh, thank goodness. Con says, what did you think was gonna happen? And Hank's like, nothing. So Hank doesn't want to admit that he thought they were eating his dog.
Yep, and he tells Bobby to go to his room for making neighbors turn on each other, while Con essentially is saying the same thing, and they bond over the fact that they both like to send their kids to bed without dinner.
I have some other stuff in here that Con had said. So yeah, Hank gets onto Bobby for causing this rift with the neighbors. Con gets on to Connie, telling her that she's fallen in with a bad crowd, which is just Bobby. And that will also be something that, Con is very big for him the rest of the season, is he doesn't necessarily like the fact that Connie is friends with Bobby and dates Bobby and that type of thing. So he straight up calls Bobby a bad crowd, like while Hank is right there. But yeah, the dads do bond by essentially just having kids. There's nothing I don't think like super special about this, but they start to bond
and sending them to bed without dessert.
Yeah.
Which Hank says something about a fortune cookie and an orange slice, and I was like, God damn, man.
I think it's very funny.
But then Con agrees.
They do that thing where they immediately stop being mad at each other and start asking each other like simple questions back and forth.
Yeah.
To kind of like, wait, did we just become best friends type of thing?
Step brothers.
Yeah, they ask. Hank asks if you spank, or I think Con asks, "Do you spank?" Hank says, "I never have." Con says, "I think it's barbaric." So they bond over the not spanking thing, and then they talk about.
I feel like spanking was pretty normal in the 90s.
It definitely was.
Did you get that butt smack?
I think we may have already asked that question on this show, but
and somebody's grabbing my butt.
Very few times.
Oh, I got it all the time, man.
I was a good little boy.
I thought I was too, but
we have a very funny line here, where Hank says, "We may deny our kids completely different desserts, but they go to bed hungry, and that's what matters." That was
child abuse.
Yeah, I thought that was a pretty funny punchline.
And then it ends with Dale crawling through the bushes saying that he needs the antidote.
Yes, they say, the dogs do run back at the end of the episode, and they start to lick them. So everything ends up good. Dale needs the antidote, man. So it's all good there. But then we get a scene as the credits are rolling of
post-credit alert.
Yeah. we get Min is in Peggy's kitchen trying a lot of different dishes to let her know, what it is. In the first dish, she says, like needs something, too much of this. She goes, add nutmeg. Second dish, like not enough this. She goes, add nutmeg. And the last one, she's like, and this is, my family's rabbit stew. And she tastes it and she goes, oh, rabbit, you rednecks will eat anything.
Yeah, but also the second thing that she says to add nutmeg to sounds like it would be fucking disgusting with nutmeg.
Yeah, I think that's the joke, is that her secret
Yeah.
to everything is nutmeg.
And that's where it ends, right?
That's where the
should
episode
we
ends.
should we hit him with a final LAOS
Give me
fact before we
Give me a last Lao fact.
LAOS translates apparently to the land of a million elephants.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Interesting.
While there aren't as many elephants roaming around today, it's a powerful reminder of the might of an ancient civilization. So I guess between the 14th and early 18th century, there was a kingdom called Lanzang that ruled Laos, and their symbol was an elephant.
Ah.
I guess there were more elephants back then.
Aha.
Yeah. There's a final Laos fact for you to wrap up this episode.
Shout out to Laos.
Y'all know what time it is now. How many beers are you pulling out of the six pack for this one?
I think I'm having. I think for me, I think I'm going on a bender. I think I'm drinking all 6.
You're giving this one a 6. I don't know if you've given
I
a
have
6
I have not given
yet,
a 6
my
yet.
guy.
I have not given a 6 yet. And yes, the racial stereotyping humor is there in this episode. I've liked this episode mostly for the introduction of the Souphanousinphones. They're one of my favorite parts of the show. Connie is one of my favorite parts. So getting to see them, this is their first episode, really cracks me up. And I like all the jokes and everything that was given to the Souphanousinphones in this episode. I think it's a very action-packed episode. A lot happens in it from A to B. So this is a 6er for me, I think.
All right, you heard it here first, folks. Chris loves stereotypical racism.
I'm getting drunk on these Alamos, 6 of them.
I think talking through the episode for me brought my score up a little. I think initially I was leaning at around 2
Ooh.
beers. From a story standpoint, I think that this one is good. I think it's well structured. I thought a lot of the jokes were good, so I gotta give it to them for that. I'm definitely knocking some off for just kind of the whole vibe of everything. But I think this was a good one. There were a lot of redeeming qualities. I will bump myself up to a 3.5.
3.5 beers. You're gonna leave.
I don't
an
think
open
it was
beer?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna get a little full.
Disrespectful. Leaving beers undrank.
All right, I'll give it. 4.
There we go. That's that peer
I'll
pressure,
pound
baby.
down 4 for this one.
It would be.
It grew on me over the several times that I watched it. I watched it very closely. Visually wasn't the best episode, but it was a good all-arounder,
There was not any real introspective growth done by the cast, not like in some of the previous episodes where we get people actually thinking about what they're doing and learning a lesson or taking things from it. The beef kind of gets squashed at the end, more with them realizing we have much more in common than we have that separates us.
Yeah, that is nice. It's overall a good message if you just kind of ignore all of the problematic nature of it,
Time to crown our kings.
Should we hit him? Hit him with the final final segment of the show. This, of course, is the section of the show that we like to call the Hill King segment. I forgot it for a second.
I'm glad you remembered
it's
it.
like kind of the main section of the show where we crown the king of this hill, which is episode 7. Based on absolutely nothing, in the moment, who you thought was the MVP of the episode, who stands supreme for this episode for you?
This was a little bit of a tough one because everybody looks kind of bad in this episode. Not everybody looks
Yeah.
great. I think my Hill King is probably going to be Doggy.
Dog.
Yeah, I think it's Doggy.
Wow.
I think it's Doggy.
All right.
He's kind of the catalyst for some of the conflict in there. He's a real scrappy boy.
He's a cute little
He is
guy.
a cute little West Highland Terrier. The episode is named after him, Westie Side Story.
What the dog doing?
You know, he gets to link up with Ladybird, which doesn't happen a lot. So
yeah,
I'm gonna
he gets some of that purebred Georgia bloodhound.
I'm gonna put him up on the pedestal this week because of his efforts.
Wow. So Chris has got a couple of people, a literal god, and a dog.
My takes this
in his
episode have
corner.
been wild. I'm standing for dog sex over here.
Yeah, stereotypes.
Yeah.
Huh.
You know what I mean. You guys know what I mean.
I mean, I think
right? I'm just
I
asking
think Doggy's
questions.
Doggy's a good choice. I think Doggy's
It-
a good one. I think I'm gonna go a little left field, and I'm just gonna go with who delivered my favorite line, and both of my favorite lines came from my fucking girl,
It's your girl.
Luann.
I think this.
So I'm gonna go with Luann again.
I think this season we're definitely shaping up for Luann.
there's still
heavy.
time. We still got what, 6 episodes?
We're halfway
left?
through.
5
This
episodes
is
left.
the halfway point of the first
7
season.
of 12. Yeah, but yeah, I'm gonna go Luann for this one.
Nice.
I loved the if we don't get there in 30 minutes, it's free. I loved the line about dyeing hair. Like anyone can have the hair color. That was really the only 2 things she said, but neither of the things she said were problematic.
I forgot
so.
in that car scene, Peggy says like we gotta hurry before the cheese gets cold and the pineapple gets hot.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah, Peggy puts pineapple.
What's
on
your
pizza.
take on pineapple on pizza?
It's all right. Depends on.
Yeah, it has its place. I think it's valid, but I would never choose
Yeah, it's
it.
not something I'm doing regularly.
voluntarily,
But if I'm at
yeah.
a place where they're like, this place has good pineapple pizza, I'll probably try that.
It can be done
yeah,
well.
it can be done.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this one's already long AF as it is. This is a great episode where we meet the Souphanousinphones. The main cast of characters is almost fully
did it.
filled in.
We did it. Next week we're gonna get caught. We're finally gonna get caught.
We're meeting Cotton next week in episode 8, Shins of the Father. So we've almost got all the townsfolk introduced now by halfway through the first season. After that, it's
Can't
going to
wait.
start to turn into your. We'll start to get our other locations around town. So yeah,
Can't wait.
we got the Souphanousinphones. We'll get we'll get Cotton next episode with Shins of the Father. So tune in again
All right.
next week.
Yeah, tune in next week. Don't forget to let us know what you think about the episode.
Only if you're a Robert.
What your hot takes are. Yeah, all my Roberts out
Sound
there.
off.
If your name is Robert, let us know. We'll give you a shout out on the next episode to any Robert. Only Roberts. Okay?
Nope.
But if you're not a Robert, still like, still subscribe, still turn on notifications, still go follow us at hillkingspod. You can email us at hillkingspod@gmail.com if you want to get more in depth. But if you comment, Chris personally promises to respond to every comment with at least one paragraph.
APMA or APA formatted.
APA format. He will get it notarized and send it to you in the mail as well if you leave your mailing
I
address.
will cite my sources. Yes, I promise.
We always do here on the Hill Kings podcast. We cite our sources.
I will not act dishonestly in an academic fashion.
Exactly.
You have my word.
And with that,
Let's get out of here.
let's get the fuck out of here. We'll hit him with one more LAOS fact. Buddhism is the biggest religion in Laos. It accounts for 67% of the population. About 30% practice animism, apparently, alongside Buddhism. Apparently, you can get really cheap beer And Laos is one of the biggest exports also. A sneaky cold one will set you back $1 US.
That is a cheap little
Yeah. I want to check out this waterfall, honestly.
waterfall.
Yeah. It's a pretty solid national anthem.
Yeah, baby. Laos.